This is genius, but too genius for me that I didn't get it. I had to watch it 3 times to understand what the heck was going on. Clearly, I'm not a runner.
This is SportsCenter.
Hey, I'm Marissa Bordon. We are just 9 days away from the start of the NHL season. I don't know if you've realized, but we're going to be putting hockey players and their numbers as we count down the days. And we got Gordy today, baby. I'm going to say Saskatoon's very own, okay? He was close enough to Saskatoon. I'm claiming him. Anyway, I also wear blue today for the Leafs, so you're welcome. And let's play our new favorite game with our favorite guest, Craig Button. It's one big question. And Craig, today we are talking Oilers. See, Oilers fans, we love you. Did this team do enough in the offseason to make them a Stanley Cup favorite?
Did the Oilers do enough in the offseason to be considered Stanley Cup favorites? No, but that's not a hard no. That's a not yet no. When you consider where the Edmonton Oilers find themselves after going to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final last season, I don't think there's any question they're a serious contender. But there's work to be done. They gave themselves significant cap flexibility to be able to add significant players prior to the trade deadline that will position them better to compete for the Stanley Cup. Once that happens, I think now we can start to talk about if they are the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. But you have to take one step, and not matching the offer sheets to Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway was that cap flexibility. There'll be a lot of defenders available, good defenders that they'll be able to look at. And if they can add 1 or 2 defenders that can equal, even come close to the contributions that Matthias Ekholm made after his acquisition, I think we can then talk about the Oilers as Stanley Cup favorites.
Uncle Button, a pleasure as always. We will talk next week to play it again. Time now for my favorite segment and yours, that we love sports today.
Why we love sports today.
And the coordination and timing required to execute this next video is actually insane. Okay, this has to be the coolest thing anybody has ever done in the existence of man. What the okay. How can he top that in his life? He can't. As we mentioned off the top, the wait is almost over for the start of the NHL regular season. So let's talk awards and who might be a good bet to win some hardware. Austin Matthews is a favorite to win the Rocket, which makes sense because he has won it 3 of the last 4 years. And you know I love an Austin Matthews at the top of any list. And if he were to pull it off again, we could be talking about a run that could rival Ovi in his prime. Ovechkin won 7 of 8 Rockets from 2012 to 2020. Now Matthews has great Hart Trophy odds, but not as good as Connor McDavid, who leads the pack at plus 150. Since 1995, only 2 players have won the Hart in back-to-back years, Dominic Hasek and Ovi. So Nathan McKinnon is probably a longer shot to grab than his odds would say. Players that have never won it before are also more popular, as 8 of the last 10 winners did so for the first time in their career. Jack Hughes, we're looking at you, buddy. To the Norris now, and the reigning winner, Quinn Hughes, has the second best odds with Adam Fox. And this is another award that does not see back-to-back winners often. In fact, since 2000, Nicholas Lidstrom is the only back-to-back winner, and he won 6 in 7 years. The Norris feels like a most points by defenseman award these days. And if that is the case, then Evan Bouchard at plus 750 is sneaky value. Bouchard had a career-high 82 points last season and was even better in the playoffs with 32 in 25 games. And if the Oilers have the season that many expect them to, it wouldn't shock people to see maybe him and Connor McDavid come home with a lot of hardware. I'm 100% doing the Bouchard bet. 100% doing that. That's just value. To the WNBA, and the playoffs are in full swing. Last night we saw an iconic performance from Sabrina Ionescu, as she absolutely went off against Atlanta for the liberty to punch their ticket to the semis. She dropped a career playoff high 36 points, 9 dimes, 3 steals, and hit 5 triples. But the highlight of her whole evening may have been this high five with Spike Lee, who was sitting courtside.
Spike Lee gave me a high five. I saw that. I thought that was so dope. As I was going to take the ball out of bounds, and I felt like New York was just like injected into my veins. At that moment, I was like, he was like Spider-Woman or something. We're winning this.
It is a very Spike Lee thing to be courtside, but also just be involved in the game somehow. Now joined by gambling guy Wes Cheng making his long-awaited return. Wes, good to see ya.
Hey, great to see you, Marissa.
Okay, Wes, we're going to get to the Liberty in a minute, but let's start by talking Caitlin Clark. Her season is on the line tonight. Do you think there's any value in her props in a must-win game for the Fever?
I think they've taken most of the value away. That's the issue I have with betting any props with her tonight. On one hand, it is an elimination game, so she's probably going to play as many minutes as they can possibly give her. On the other, this is the Connecticut Sun. They're the #1 defense in the entire league. They've done a really good job limiting her production. If I'm going to take a bet, I'd actually go the other way. I look at Alyssa Thomas on that team, and I look at her godfather points, rebounds, and assists at 29.5. As good as the Fever have played on offense since the Olympic break, defensively, they're still a little shaky, and that showed in Game 1. I don't think that's going to stop tonight. Thomas had a triple-double in Game 1. She's an MVP caliber player. I can see her continuing that type of production going into this elimination game at home.
Okay, Wes, we got a banger of the semi as the two-time champion Aces take on the Liberty in a rematch of last year's finals. How are you approaching that series and either team looking ahead to the finals?
I mean, I would say whoever you like in this series, bet them to win the entire thing, because this is pretty much the WNBA finals. I get why the Liberty are favored. They went 32-8 2 seasons in a row. They've now had 2 years where the super team has been able to gel together. And then you have the Aces, who they're trying to three-peat, but they're really just struggling and holding on to Asia Wilson's production. They're just not as strong as they've been these past 2 years. The way I would look at it, don't just look at them to win the championship. I think there's a little bit of value on the Liberty side to chase a finals MVP. It's not like other teams where they have same price for the best player for them to win the championship. Brianna Stewart's like $280. Ionescu's $550. They're $140 to win the entire chip. And I think with how you saw Sabrina played in that first round series, I think there's potentially some value there with her at plus $550.
Wes Cheng, a pleasure as always.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And you can watch Caitlin Clark in the Fever tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. That's it for me today. We'll see you back tomorrow at 3 Eastern, no Pacific. Have a good one.